The Worst Holiday, Chapter 3. On my way to our allotment that no one but you suspects, Simon reminded me that we were going camping in a fortnight. "Who now will you invite?" he queried. "Dunno," I responded. "Perhaps I'll be able to think it through when I've had my midnight smoke." "Spot on," Simon remarked. "You know, when you were Terry, you wouldn't have even been able to." "That's crazy," I responded. "All it involves is breathing." "I know, right?" Simon said. We picked our weed, and smoking, I realised that it was a good thing that Delilah was no longer with me. To climb the mountain, we needed someone with its name. Within the next 2 weeks, we agreed upon our determination to meet a mate called Ben Nevis. We stayed up at the allotment until the sun rose, discussing how we were going to do it. Perhaps in another pub, last minute on the train, or by a lake. Maybe we needed a pre-camping cottage stay in the Lake District. Then I headed to the Bell. "It's a new policy," I explained, when the first customer asked why I needed to know their name. "But what's its purpose?" they questioned. "It's so we can make a register in case of fire." "Wow, I didn't think you were paid enough." "I'm Peter Bread." "How do you remember everyone's names and notice when they leave so you can cross them off?" "That is the power of smoking spliffs." Peter Bread smiled, and I thought how ironic it was that he was scranning naan. By the way, I had told the manager my mission. He seemed to think it was hilarious, so agreed that I and my colleagues had to ask all the customers their names as soon as they sat down. Some on the register, as well as Peter Bread, were Superb, Eileen Oncoming, Joe Wild, Henry Horrid, and Sam Fireman, but no Ben Nevis. When I expressed my disappointment to the manager, he asked if I even knew his name. I didn't. It was Ben Nevis. This was going to be an interesting trip, and not so much of a holiday after all. I certainly needed to get to know him better. I apologised for never asking his name, even though I was not impressed that he'd made me and my colleagues that I suddenly liked go to such an effort on that day's shift. It turned out to not just be that day, in fact. Ben said it would look bad if we suddenly abandoned our fire register, so we had to continue what we started for the solid reputation of the Bell. And despite my annoyance, I invited him round every night in the run-up to the trip to play Fortnite after a trip to our allotment. "Right, we'd better get packing," Simon pointed out a few hours before we were due to leave. "We don't want to be lugging too much on the train, so let's only bring the essentials. Don't overthink what these are." We took flint, steel, and a range of drugs. When I was Terry, Simon insisted on lots of layers, but now I was Tyler, they didn't seem to cross his mind. After having run to the station, we stole some IPA from M&S and pushed past the people on the platform to take the finest seats in first class. A few minutes passed, and I complained that we hadn't been served any crumpets. The train staff claimed that we didn't reply when they offered them to us, pointing out that we were blasting a dreadful song with the lyrics, "Lick, lick, 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 I wanna eat yo dick, but I can't fuck up my nails, so I'ma pick it up with chopsticks." I found it utterly hilarious that they'd repeated them, so when they served us our crumpets, We didn't even wait for them to leave before we coated them in cocaine. Terry would have been extremely ill at ease without his notebooks and pens. We simply chewed and chatted. After a few pints, I was desperate for a slash, but both toilets had been locked for the whole journey, filling the carriages with a mixture of frustrated and elated moans. So I simply whipped it out under the table and caught the substance in an empty beer can. The other two followed suit. When we reached Peterborough and had to change over, we placed the now full cans on a table of suited passengers typing too swiftly on their laptops to notice. Just as we alighted, the saliva-enhanced slashes spurted over them, breaking them in fizzles. The typer's shouting was so loud it seemed to fuel the train. That was better entertainment than we have ever had at Spoons, Ben declared. The next train was to Edinburgh. 2 minutes after we reached Peterborough it was due, but it was delayed by another 2, then 10, then half an hour. Then we lost track because of our thorough enjoyment jumping beside others at the platform and asking them their favourite crumpet toppings. Some maniacs said Marmite, which would have also been Terry's response. Even wilder train waiters went for pesto, topped with stewed cabbage. We had been waiting for the blasted train for a gazillion fruits worth of jam when we noticed we were approached by an enormous walking bell. "My name's Peterborough," he announced. "I'm guessing you've been waiting for the train." "But not anymore. Let's go to the pub." Although there were plenty of pubs in the area, Peterborough insisted on taking us to the Bell Inn, which was 3 hours away on foot. I asked him if he knew of a decent taxi service. He expressed an urge to walk, which, to my surprise, Simon agreed was a lovely idea. Ben and I complained about how hank we were from only eating a crumpet each. And we did not want to wait 3 hours to get to a pub with Bell in the name. We were sure they would serve microwave meals almost as marvellous as the ones we offered at work. We offered at work. "We are definitely walking there," Simon asserted. "If we are going to climb Ben Nevis, which will take 3 hours at least, we need to manage a slight incline with a pub at the end. It isn't like we haven't got plenty of weed to keep us going." "Yes, climb me, boys," Ben Nevis instructed erotically. 3 minutes into the walk, we reached Lost Time Tattoo Parlour, and Peterborough went in. The rest of us smoked a spliff before we followed him. "What the fuck, Peter," we all said. "We have a pub to get to, and it was your suggestion." "Sorry, lads, I forgot about my tattoo appointment. I hope you can forgive me. Feel free to go ahead to the Bell and I'll catch up." We all looked at our phones and immediately forgave him. It was 4:20, a perfect time for an appointment, and we were relieved we had just been able to smoke a spliff. Peterborough lets the person at reception know he was here. "Fill out this form," they said, in the tone of a partner discovering they have been cheated on. No, sorry, that should be more like, "Fill out this form!" That's not right either. It should be more like, "Fill out this form." That'll do. They said in the tone of a partner discovering they had been cheated on. "Will do," replied Peter, remaining chipper. From Peter's expression, this form seemed to be mega cryptic, and An entire hour after if it was shoved into his hand, he still hadn't finished filling it out. A 12-year-old tiptoed down the stairs, introduced himself as Terence, and asked Mr. Burrow if he was ready. It turned out he had been staring at the same yes or no question for the whole time. Have you eaten in the past 4 hours? I know that you are asking to make sure I don't faint, which I won't, he assured the underage artist. But I am on a liquid diet, so have only drunk, not eaten. Well, what have these drinks consisted of? 5 packs of Weetabix, 10 kilograms of protein powder, 15 avocados, and 20 bottles each of cashew, coconut, almond, hazelnut, hemp, oat, rice, and soy milk, Peter Burrow confirmed. Terence left the tattoo shop saying nothing and came back with 3 gigantic buckets. I called him a wise man, which he responded to with a euphoric grin. And he was wise. Those buckets were well needed.